Hello, 1301. This is Anzaldua Questions section. I think it'll be fairly short video lecture because I honestly think that the people who wrote the textbook don't necessarily understand Anzaldua that well. So even questions 1 and 4 are pretty similar. I would say they're close to the same question. But if you look at the Gloria Anzaldua question sheet, both number 1 and 4 are asking you to write about your voices. Anzaldua has many voices. She's Hispanic, feminist, lesbian, along with a lot of other voices. And that question asks you to write about your voices. So probably a lot of you would say, I'm Hispanic, feminist. You might talk about going to church. Maybe if you're from Texas and you're a Caucasian, you talk about how you feel a bit like an outsider in these readings. Instead of like Anzaldua was a little girl being in a room full of white students, maybe you feel like the little white kid in a room full of Hispanic students. But over the years, people have written about being an athlete, being in a band, being a gamer, being like a country girl, being a Texan. So it's ultimately up to you. I would caution you, kind of like what I said with one of the Saeed photo questions. It shouldn't be like a complete autobiographical essay in the sense that, bam, I like video games. Bam, I like video games a lot. Whatever you write that you say about yourself liking video games, I should, as a reader, get something about your culture, like other people who like video games, or other country girls, other athletes, other Hispanic feminists. So you can let it roll. Like Anzaldua is kind of like a crazy quilt, stream of consciousness. She's all over the place. Feel free to write it like that. But ideally, the reader should, get your point as well. Whatever you're saying about you as a person, your culture, where you're from, your family, your friends, your church, whatever, I should be able to read your entire culture. The second question on Anzaldua is kind of a meat and potatoes question. It says basically compare her 2 articles. So entering into the serpent, if you haven't listened to that lesson yet, it's kind of about how men have controlled women. I used La Llorona as an example. When I first got here, when I asked for the story, they said La Llorona was poor girl. She married a rich guy. He cheated on her. She was so distraught, upset that her husband cheated on her that she drowned her children. And I, being new here, thought, okay, the moral is don't cheat on your wife. But it turns out like 1,000 years or 500 years of men being in control, they made La Llorona into a demon that would like get your children if they stay out too late. If they go down the river or whatever you're doing in Odessa on a Friday night. And then the second reading is about language. To me, she says Spanglish, Tex-Mex is cool. It's innovative, it's new, it's positive. It's American culture and Mexican culture coming together. It's new and lively and innovative. Compare that to what someone in the 80s would say. Compare that to what your grandmother would say. So a lot of number 2 is comparing those 2 essays. Another point I made before was that the best paper I've read at Odessa College was from a girl who spoke only English and her grandparents spoke only Spanish, and she felt guilty being in a room with her grandparents that they couldn't communicate. That was a really good essay. You could certainly do something like that. The third question is about Anzaldua's voices. I said before, Hispanic, feminist, lesbian. So if that was a 5-paragraph essay, introduction, first paragraph is her feminist voice, second paragraph, her Hispanic voice, third paragraph, her lesbian voice. And what that means, it's not just about her, it's about her culture. Maybe she's writing for like an entire generation of people who've been othered. See, that's a lesson from Rodriguez or Said. All the rich people together, we other the people who aren't as rich and powerful. So maybe she's writing her lesson here for everyone who's been pushed to the margins, has been othered. But number 3 is about her voices. Like I said before, number 4 is very much like number 1. Honestly, Anzaldua makes me work more than Said or Rodriguez. So in class, in real time, digging in, reading Spanish sessions, I'm kind of wild and crazy and sweating because, you're getting your money's worth with Anzaldua. And then number 5, ask who her ideal audience is. To my way of thinking, either she's writing this essay to empower Hispanic feminists who don't usually have a voice, the little Hispanic girl in a white classroom who feels like on the margins, or maybe she's writing it for all other people that are not white, masculine, mainstream. I think you could also argue that she's writing it to mess with the system. Maybe Rodriguez's essay reads perfectly, 5 or 6 sentences, periods, punctuation. You've been in school for 12, 13 years. That seems normal. Anzaldua is all over the map. So maybe you could argue she's writing that to push the buttons to mess with the mainstream. So, there's other ways you could write that. But more than likely, you'll say she's writing it to empower Hispanic feminists, or she's writing it to mess with the white establishment. Okay.